Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the Coriolis rules by Free League Publishing. This actual play is performed by adults and contains adult themes. Strong language, powerful factions, and adventures across the third horizon await. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., which may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your storyteller. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I'm your storyteller Mike Diamond. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm back with another fantastic story in our Children of the Periphery series. We want to thank you first, the listener, and especially you, the Patreon supporter. Those of you who are supporting us on Patreon are likely seeing all sorts of fun new extras, and we look forward to supplying you many more. Another great reason to go over and back us. You can also support the show by just following us on YouTube, sharing some episodes, and maybe leaving a few funny comments. We always love those as well. We'll go to cast introductions now. So to my right.
This is Morgan. Mine and my character's pronouns are she, her, and her name is Captain Amara Castera, and she's leading this wily crew. They're probably leading me on the adventure to the basement, but here we go.
Technically, the cellar is your objective, but we've enjoyed really calling it anything, like under the table, down in the basement, below deck. We could name anything, really. But moreover, Captain, good luck with this crew. To the Captain Amara's right.
Hi, this is Ali, and I play Kainat, and both me and my character have she, her pronouns. And provided that we finish this job, I'm going to get to visit archaeology sites.
Yes, provided you survive this job. At the end of the table?
Hi, I'm John. My pronouns are he, him, and I'll be playing the character of Fida, who is also he, him. He's just a simple mechanic, simple working class guy who uses some criminal contacts to go down to the criminal underworld, which is literally the bottom of the space station.
Totally normal.
It's figurative and literal, which makes it very pleasing to everyone.
Fantastic. And to Fida's right.
Hi, this is Rena. My pronouns are they, them, as are my characters. I am playing Tamarisk and Vari, and I probably shouldn't be here. And yet here we are.
Yes, likely a common phrase really in your character's life. I shouldn't be here, but here we are. I look forward to seeing how you deal with, well, the cellar as it is. And last but most certainly not least.
Hello, I am Rosie, she, her, of Odd Duck Dice. And today I am playing Icarus, also she, her, the prospect pilot of our crew and gambler, apparently.
Potentially, rather potentially famous gambler. If you keep your work up like that, you manage to festoon a few of the gamblers in this strange place of all of their burr, and now are on your way to somewhere even more seedier, if that's possible.
Working my way down.
So we'll raise the curtain tonight as the crew is, as Rosie mentioned, working their way down. Your guide leads you through a series of passageways. One exits from this bar. It isn't out the front, it's through a side door. You pass by several different kitchen stations and back rooms where private meetings are being held, and he walks into a simple, nondescript room and then presses a panel against a wall, shoving it aside and gesturing you to go down the stairs beyond.
I gesture for Fida to go first.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He will take point, and if nothing else, he's the biggest, so that's why. Plus, he might know a bouncer or something down here if there is one.
The guide hands you a small hand flashlight, just in case.
Thanks. He's just going to click it on and off, make sure it works, and then head down.
Mostly works.
Oh, great. Better than I expected.
I'll be right behind Fida.
That's probably a safe place to be, yes. Your guide is going to end up taking up the rear, as it were. He shuts the door behind you. He also ignites a slightly brighter light to help pierce the darkness in this long series of stairs. As many people are wont to do, sometimes people count when they're walking downstairs or upstairs. Those of you who do get to probably around 50 before you hit a landing. It is very deep, at least by comparison. You exit out into what looks like a service tunnel for some of the station. This looks a little bit familiar to you, Amara, at least in the style of architecture here. You have been under one of the Plaza Spaceport's tunnels. You're seeing a lot of the same repeated archway artwork here. It's not keeping with the times as far as its architectural build. This is old stuff. Not colony ship old, not, first come old, but it's definitely stuff that probably just has not changed very much in hundreds of years. Other than that, the plates of the deck here are a little loose. They don't seem to have a complete firm foundation. It's likely that as you move along these passageways, you probably feel the corridors almost flex. They contract a little bit and then open back up. This could be for any number of reasons to you, Fida, but it's mostly likely that these tunnels were built on the interior superstructure and are likely not completely attached to the station. They're simply used as a pathway, which also makes them very dangerous potentially.
It's pressurized, but don't do anything in here that might cause it to be depressurized, because it could get depressurized.
It really could. I guess that might make things a little exciting for you, Icarus, just because this is brand new. It's not anything more than serviceable. There's no extra shine that's been put on this. And also, it's nice to see that the station has ways to move around it that aren't under the thumb of some other entity.
If she spent time on the station, she would spend most of her time down here.
Your guide directs you further down a curving passageway. This is a big curve, so the angles are very slight. It reminds you of like walking on the promenade. Very similar style of just that slightest of right curve to sort of everything. He comes to a spot on the floor. There's a big crossed star. It's got 8 points on it, and he motions for you to stop, Fida. Hang on. This is it. So this is the way to the cellar, or at least this is one of the ways. He reaches down and pulls at the center of this star. There's a circular part of the deck plate here, and it opens up. And what you see beneath it looks like a tube entrance, like a rail tube entrance. The walls are particularly smooth. It's maybe a meter in diameter. So there are a lot of ways to get down there, but this is one of the fastest.
Is it like a slide? Is there a ladder?
There is not a ladder per se. It is a tube. The tube is very smooth. There is a faint, almost purple glow to the tube. It does go not straight down. It seems to curve just slightly, but it is dark after, say, 4 or 5 meters.
Fida looks at it and is like, you folks should go first. I might get stuck.
Can I have the flashlight?
Sure. Sometimes you have to squeeze the middle bit of it a little bit. Make sure the contacts work.
That'll be fine. And I'll go into this tube.
That's fantastic. Okay. So are you going to, in effect, just leap in, or you sit down and then glide yourself into this tube?
Well, so very much like these new plastic slides like at playgrounds, does it have like little notches in it, or is it just smooth all the way down?
Well, it really doesn't seem to have any notches in it. It looks very smooth.
Okay. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to see if I can't angle myself a little bit so that I'm not like sliding straight down, but that I'm moving a little slower unless it's way too wide.
It's not way too wide. You can angle your body a little bit to help perhaps slow your potential descent. I say potential because you haven't actually moved off just yet. You have a free hand, which you could use to try to cause some friction on this tube.
All right, I'll see you guys down there. And down I go.
So there is a part, I think, in most people and I don't want to presuppose for any of the other four of you, there's a part inside of you that sort of has an anxiety leap when this happens. There's a gasp, a clutch, perhaps of pearls, when K-Not just disappears. You see K-Not for 3 seconds, and then the darkness of this tube just consumes them. So, Allie, I'm going to have you roll agility and dexterity for me.
Okay. Huzzah, 1 success.
1 success is all you need. So, I think exhilaration might be too heavy-handed of an adjective for you. But I would say that there is some fun, maybe? If only because it looks like this technology is relatively older. This might be a reused tube that was once fit for personal elevator or something like that. That's had the car or the passenger portion taken out of it. The tube walls are exceedingly slick. So you trying to grab at them is not how you slow down. You end up flattening yourself and putting both your arms out and then both your legs out. And you slowly sort of glide down this tube. You slow up as it changes, it changes arc a little bit, and then you come out onto a platform that is roughly 3 meters wide by maybe about 2 meters deep. No one sees you arrive, which is likely good because it is quite unceremoniously. But you're not damaged in any way.
That's fantastic. If I holler back up the tube, is anyone going to hear me?
You have no idea.
It's totally fine.
A minute or so passes, and then you hear, "It's totally fine," in K-Not's voice.
Of course. For right now, I'm going to turn off the flashlight just in case there is something that might see me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to sit at the bottom of the tube.
Gonna await your crew in darkness.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, who's next?
All right, I'll go. This better not ruin my coat.
Well, we'll find out. So that is an agility and dexterity roll.
I got 2 successes.
Okay. So you have 2 successes. So clearly you make the minimum 1. But with the additional success, your speed down the tube is slowed enough to where it is simply a pleasant ride. Maybe it is your jacket that creates the extra friction, but you manage to find your way to the bottom and then basically get belched out of the bottom of the tube to this platform where you are suddenly not alone.
Tuck and roll and jump up. And I yell up the tube, "Next!"
Yes, who's next?
Viola looks at the other two.
Fancy Pants?
Tamarisk looks very unhappy about this entire situation. You can tell they're very much not happy about this, but they'll go.
It's okay. You have 2 friends down there.
That somehow is not very encouraging. And off we go.
Okay. You get tubed. Go ahead and give me a dexterity and agility roll.
1 success.
Okay. The unceremonious part for Tamarisk, unfortunately, is that there's really no way to keep their ensemble the same after arriving down there. And so you sort of arrive in like a heap of fabric, which you quickly correct, but that is not your preferred method of travel by any means.
Like a cat, I just sort of stand up and brush myself off and act like nothing happened at all.
Don't worry, it's totally dark. No one can see it anyway.
So next.
Icarus is going to look at our guide. Did we ever get his name?
You sure didn't.
She looks at him, smiles, and says, "There's a way back up, right?"
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Great. You're going to go, then I'm going to go, then Vita's going to go.
I don't want to go down there.
You're going down there. Go on.
But why?
Because I want to make sure we can get back up, and I don't trust you.
Oh. All right. He leaps in head first.
Well, that's going to go well.
Maybe that's the way you're supposed to do it.
I'm not going to do it that way, are you?
No?
Who's next?
Icarus will go.
All right. Again, dexterity, agility. Those of you down in the platform area hear a new arrival.
2 successes.
Okay. Icarus arrives, unharmed.
Fido swallows and looks into the iris of this perfectly round, dark hole, closes his eyes and jumps in. Rolling 4 dice, 3 for agility, 1 for skill. And I got no successes, Mike.
Okay, so this gives us a wonderful opportunity to talk about a systematic portion of the Coriolis game. So when you roll checks against, situations that need to be resolved, it is possible for you to not get a success, the successes you need. And so you can call upon the icons and attempt to re-roll. In doing so, you provide your storyteller with something called a darkness point. These darkness points can be used at different intervals throughout the story and for different things. And so I guess the question is, John, do you want Fida to have an opportunity to re-roll?
No, Mike, I'm okay with Fida having, at best, an ungraceful exit, and at worst, possibly getting stuck.
What you all hear is an awful lot of clattering and thumping and banging. Fighter, for your part, it's really the force, perhaps it's your body weight, but it's the force of you going down into this tube as you begin to ride real high on the left-hand side, and then something terribly unfortunate happens. And that is you begin to swirl around the inside of this tube. And all of you on the platform can hear, this weird oscillating sound coming down the tube. And then you are shot out of a cannon, not simply, thrown against the ground or tumbled out of the tube. It is like a cannon has gone off and you collide with the opposite wall.
Yep, I had so much more velocity than everyone else.
Oh, yes.
No, I was just going to say, do I take any damage from that?
Yeah. I think I'm going to deal you some damage on that.
I think that's fair. If I'm going at full velocity.
Right. Let's see here. Atypical damage. I like atypical damage.
Mm-hmm. Non-standard. They know it's going to come up.
So I don't think Fida wears any armor, right?
Nope.
Yeah, it's 2 points of damage that's incoming to you.
Yep.
So there's a soak roll for you. I think that's just strength.
Okay, so that's strength 4. I will roll 4 dice. 2 successes.
Okay. So the only thing you hurt is your pride. You soak the damage. Mostly your face soaks the damage. You collide with the far wall.
I've got a very large beard and hair, so it works out. I can cover up the bruises and swelling and also kind of cushion them.
Well, and it sort of plays into that whole engineer, rough cut sort of person. The rest of you, it sort of sounds like a big gong goes off. That's really the only way I can put it. But after a few moments after that, kind of turns her flashlight on.
I'd also like to move it kind of slow and take a good look at the room to see if there's anything significantly unusual.
Your guide's down here. That was sort of unexpected.
I'm going to turn to our guide. All right, where are we going?
Straight ahead, he points. On the other side of the platform, probably a good 20 or so feet, there's a archway, and it leads into a different section of tunnels. The guide starts out straight away. As soon as people are recovered, he begins moving.
I am following with said flashlight.
Yep, right behind him.
Off we go then.
Slightly stiffer than previously. I've maybe, just working out a few kinks in the body now. I'm going to just follow along.
There is a glow that comes after a few passageways. There's lighting. A little strange for down here. It's golden, a little white, but mostly golden. And you see tube lights, old style lights, that start picking up here. They run along the upper section of the tunnel here and corridor. This is all framed out tunnels. So these are a little bit more structurally sound than the ones that you've been in previously. And you start seeing something that you recognize. Those are space crates. Unused, empty, but they're here. And if there are space crates here, there are likely activities that you might be familiar with nearby. For you, Icarus, you start to smell machine oil. There are people doing work nearby, real work. And so that sort of lightens the mood. And even for you, Tamaris, there's some rather expensive spice in the air. Someone's burning something to likely an icon, probably for protection. At least they're spending the right amount of money. This all culminates into a squat structure. So probably the doorway is no more than 8 or so feet tall. It's wide. All the doors here open in sections. So instead of there being 1 or 2 doors in front, there's like 8. And they seem to be almost like corral style, like you might use for cattle. But they lead beyond that to a circular bar area and what looks like a nightclub in the middle of this place. Definitely an oasis for subterranean travelers. There's even music.
I'm going to turn off the flashlight. There's lighting down here. I don't need it anymore.
The guide stops probably about 20 or so feet from the entrance, and he says, if you want to get out, when you're done, take that passageway. There are some elevator tubes that go up vertically. Nice and easy. You'll have to pick your way through some of the archway tunnels, but I'm certain your captain here can probably figure out which way to go. I've done my part. The rest is on you. Good luck.
Icarus gives him a winning, impish smile, shakes his hand and says, I'm Icarus. Nice to do business with you. And then turns around and ignores him from thence.
Yeah, do I have a pad or anything with me so I can pull up the photo of this Moab?
Yeah, you pull up the photo of Moab. Now you know who you're looking for.
I go in and I glance around the room.
You go in, there's a crescendo of different tones that play when you walk through these doors. You hadn't imagined there'd be doorbells, but it seems that there are, or at least signifiers when new people come in. For you, Tamaris, this is sort of a passé way of saying hello to people. It's actually fairly common in some of the courtesan circles where folks who are nonverbal but still want services might use, we'll just say a decorative or perhaps a chorusing chime at the door to sort of say hello to people without having to, in their minds, sort of be as front forward with greetings. It might also lend you to think about how people might interact here. But yes, lively music. And there are people here. There's probably 20 or so people, 2 or 3 behind this rectangular bar that sits in the center of the room. There are drop lights, these cones that come down from the ceiling that then shoot their illumination upward, almost like palm trees, to sort of canopy all of the different lighting effects in here. You don't see a lot of people directly talking to one another. You actually don't hear voices. You see people enjoying music, and there are some people over there dancing, but people don't seem to talk.
Is this a kind of situation I've seen before? Kind of like a club or something where people tend not to talk, where it's more for enjoying the atmosphere? Or is this a very sort of strange, unsettling sort of event?
No, you've seen events like these probably way up in the spire. You've seen parties for different types of Zenithian product deployments where maybe there's a radio channel or something that you have to buy into or connect to where all of the conversation is happening at. You do see the slight movement of people's mouths, but you're not hearing anything. And I'll give everyone here an observation roll as well. You're all looking around, I imagine. Unless you're going in like with your fingers in your ears and your eyes covered, you're going to be subject to potential sensory tests.
I got 1 success.
I'm hanging out over here with 3 successes.
Well, I got 1 success. Now I feel inadequate.
I got 2 successes.
Also 2.
So for those of you with 1 or 2, you pick up on the non-verbal, I guess. That's the best way to say it, the non-verbal communication that's going on here. People are talking. They're just talking either at very low tones, or when they talk, you can't hear what they're saying. You connect it very much to what looks like a piece behind the ear several people are wearing here. Different styles, but mostly the same color and type. And then for our 3 successes from Kainat, you notice around the bar at the top of the ceiling where the bar lighting is, there are a series of antenna arrays that stick out from the top. You almost wouldn't notice them amongst the other environmental effects in here, but you do pick them out.
I'm going to nudge Amara with my elbow and just throw my head up a little bit to look up there.
I glance up. Must be how they're communicating.
There's a tall man behind the bar. He's exceedingly tall. He's probably 2+ meters. He's thin. His skin is almost a hyper color of gold. Like perhaps he has body paint on. And he has very angular facial hair. Like he has sculpted facial hair. And so it doesn't even look like hair. It looks more like body modification that's been done to him to make him always look like this, because you think he might be like, those eyebrows aren't eyebrows. There's something that's been installed on him. And he greets you with just a turn of his wrist, Tamarisk.
I return a nod and move in that direction. Have I seen things like this before? I guess the kind of body modification for a bartender, club manager, that kind of thing. Is that normal?
I don't know about normal. Body modification doesn't necessarily land most people in what we would say society's good graces. It's certainly not going to be okay with folks who are firstborn or first come. And that's mostly because they would find religious objections to people modifying the body. That said, Zenithians are a little bit more flexible. So several of their factions are okay with body modifications. I think for you, I would just leave it to the player to decide, given your faction, what you likely encounter people who are modified in all manner of different situations.
So I don't think I would have much of a problem with it. There's probably also some people in the temple in my line of work who've had body modifications done. So I'll just approach since he's acknowledged me.
You see him draw out the picture of a rectangle with his finger on the bar table. And when he does, there's a screen that gets revealed that's sort of inset into the bar. And in fairly simple lettering on that screen, it asks you to register your comlink to the bar channels.
So I'll do that, I guess. Seems to be how people are talking.
You register, and when you do so, you can sort of feel the onrush of additional audio.
Okay.
And your comlink kicks in real hard to try to filter some of that out and down, because the amount of signal strength that comes in seeks to almost overload what you have running, because it essentially seems like it's subscribing you to every conversation in the bar. And your comlink begins to, in a furious pace, to try to basically unsubscribe or filter out anything except you in, say, like your immediate 2 or 3 meter radius. Which it does, but it doesn't mean that you don't get sort of palpitations about it doing so. Oh no, I don't want to hear every conversation.
Too much.
You hear the bartender's voice finally through your comlink say, "Welcome to the garage."
Thank you. I'll have some wine, please.
Certainly. He turns back and goes to fetch you something. He returns with wine a few moments later. I don't believe we've seen you here before.
Maybe you haven't. Interesting place you have.
He nods and sort of looks to the vast array of lighting, which mimics those palm trees. An oasis for travelers of this horizon.
Nice and quiet for the most part. Slight head twitch.
Provided you're interested in just a few conversations, it's much easier to deal with. You've actually noticed, Tamarisk, that like the music that's playing, since you subscribe to basically the audio channels that the bar exists, that even the out surrounding music has dimmed quite a bit. It's actually far easier to talk in this bar in 95% of the clubs that you have been in.
Always appreciate a place that allows for good conversation versus noisy atmosphere.
People come here to talk and to trade, and so that is our primary purpose.
Well, I can see why. I might be looking for someone.
I might know where they are.
Slight look around. Does it look I guess because all the other patrons are so quiet, does that mean at this point the other people in my party can't hear what I'm saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Like you turn around to look, and they were like you were doing before, was just looking around trying to figure out what people are saying and who's saying what. You can tell that it's mystifying for a little bit.
Looking for someone by the name of Moab?
I'm familiar with the name.
Are you?
Mm-hmm. They keep a suite here, although I haven't seen them in some time.
Sometime, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea where we might find them, other than here?
They are a salt and spice trader. They travel far and wide and keep a suite here for entertaining guests.
Do I think he's telling me the truth?
That's a good question. I think it's reasonable to sort of look and perhaps glance deeper at some of the information he's giving you. You're happy to do so with an empathy manipulation roll.
That's 6 dice for me, so 1 success.
Pretty sure that he's telling you the truth. If this Moab has a suite here and he's not around and hasn't been in a while, maybe you might be able to persuade the bartender to give you access to it, or maybe at least point it out.
Where does he normally stay here?
Our guests at the garage here have a few different locations. There are a set of doors, he nods in one direction, which lead to the hangar areas for any long-staying patron. If you pay for a spot for your ship, it comes with a suite, so that way you don't always have to sleep where you work.
Quite the setup.
It is. It's what keeps the station going. I know the Trade Federation enjoys flexing its muscles when it comes to telling the people of the Third Horizon that they run everything. But we see an awful lot of nomads and an awful lot of Free League ships through here, and they help supply the rest for a price.
Of course. Everything has a price.
Indeed.
Perhaps you could show me where he stays? Or when he comes back, of course.
For a price, certainly.
And what would that be?
He scans the room a little bit. I think perhaps we could use some entertainment. My guess is that you're an accomplished performer.
I have my moments.
Well, why don't you, in exchange for the information, prepare to have a few moments here on the dance floor? Perhaps it will inspire some of the other patrons to fill their cups.
Have a look around. I suppose that could be arranged.
Good. More wine?
Absolutely. Tamara's feeling they're going to need it.
He fills your cup again. What's the rest of the crew doing?
I'm still looking around for Moab. I'll walk deeper into where people are hanging.
I'm sticking with the cat with Amara.
I'm just vibing.
I'm going to walk over to the bar.
You walk over to the bar.
And I'm going to gesture to the equipment that's up above the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or is he not paying attention to me?
Well, he's talking with Tamara, but there are multiple bartenders.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to gesture up there. What's it for?
Another bartender comes around, just a couple inches taller than you. They have long brown hair, a fairly bird-like featured woman, complemented very nice by the like leather and metal outfit that she's wearing. It's segmented in part. It almost looks like she's wearing a sort of medieval armor rather than an outfit. She taps on the bar top table and you see a screen appear. She sort of gestures to the writing there.
And I'll read it, and I imagine it was the same thing that Tamara's CAD.
Yeah, it's basically an invitation to join the audio channels here.
Yeah, I'll calibrate my comlink to it.
Okay, you do so. You start hearing the different conversations bubble up from places. For those of you walking the bar area or the club area, as it were, there's an awful good cross-section of different people here, likely from all over. Amara, you see people that you know captain different ships. there's probably half the bar, just by color and by insignia, are likely free leaguers. There's a lot of them here. You hadn't heard about this direct sort of oasis for smuggling, but now that you know about it, it might not be a bad idea to get a berth here at some point. And it doesn't take you too long, Fida, to understand why they're doing what they do with the audio channels here. If you can't hear conversations with military sound filtering that would be done to try to potentially ferret out where those purge squads might need to go, then this becomes a pretty safe place. And you can imagine that those cattle corral doors shut pretty tight when they need to. This place is definitely purpose-built in that regard.
Yeah, I'll walk around the bar, and to those that I know, I will nod, pretend like I belong.
It's not hard for you to do. You're getting some experience as a captain, and then also you have all of the moxie and plus the captain's coat to do it. So you avail yourself fairly well. People acknowledge you as you go. The music changes up a little bit as Tamaris walks towards one portion of the floor. And a fair amount of the bar patronage turn and begin watching what they're doing. And so for the rest of us, Tamaris, why don't you tell me what you're doing?
So Tamarisk is a dancer by training, and they're experienced in a bunch of different dances, I would assume. Varying patronage, need them for different things. What's the vibe of the music? Is it more club style in here?
Yeah, probably. You're probably in a type of fusion jazz at this point.
So they would pause for a moment just to get the feel and the rhythm of the music. You can see their heads start to move slightly, picking up the beat, and then start with some club dancing solo. And it doesn't look like, just doing the lawn cart or the changing the light bulb, whatever.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so you begin a dance, one of entrancement, perhaps showing off many of your talents. And to do so, you have a skill which will assist with this. I think this is going to be empathy culture, because it's not like really a test of your flexibility per se.
I'm making eye contact with various people as I go, just that kind of make them feel like they're the only person in the room. And that is 3 successes.
All right. You dance your way into a series of applauses in this room, which are done by the various bar regulars tapping on their glasses. That's sort of how you get your key response. And so as you dance, they don't wait for the end. They applaud as the performance goes. And you actually get into a rhythm with them to be able to feed off of the applause. For the rest of you, this is pretty stunning. Tamaris begins to weave the crowd into what they want the crowd to enjoy. It's a turn that few real entertainers can get hold of so quickly, but they don't seem to have a problem doing so. As the performance goes along, you can also tell that the patrons begin to enjoy themselves, drinks, etc., and your bartender contact seems very happy. You work up quite the sweat.
Enjoying it more as I really get into it, because I tend to lose myself in performance. Once I start it, connecting off the energy and everybody else in the room, it's very invigorating.
Amara, you never see Moab here. He's not in the crowd.
I go back and stand over by the bar
Hmm?
and turn and watch Tamarisk do their thing. They can work the crowd.
Seemingly they can. They come towards you when they're finished, and I would imagine likely inquire with the bartender.
Livened up the place quite a bit, I'd say.
Indeed, a pleasure to see your skills work. This, they put a very tiny white chip on the bar. This will open the hallway to the suites. The suite is 131. Getting in is up to you.
A pleasure doing business with you.
Indeed.
Do I notice that Kainat has joined the...
Yep.
Network? Okay. So I will slide over to her and sort of tap the chip a little bit. I think we can get where we need to go.
Then I guess it's your turn to lead the way.
Sort of nod slightly at the others if I can catch eye contact with them, and slight roll of the head in the direction we need to go.
Yeah, for Amara, you watched the physical transaction happen. So you know that there was some sort of business done.
Yep, I will fall into line nonchalantly.
For you, Icarus, you see a conga line forming of your crew members.
Heck yeah, let's conga. Pushes off the wall and comes over to join the gang.
Indeed. So the chip gets you proximity detection passage through this door, single person door. It slides up and you see a pretty common passageway like you would have seen in any of the spaceports around here. It goes deeper in, probably a good 10 meters until it tees. And all the while you see suites marked with numbers.
Did I look over at Tamara's? So where are we headed? Do we still need the comm links?
No, you guys can talk normally.
Looking for 131, and then we'll have to figure out how to get in.
Well, maybe by knocking.
An orthodox approach, perhaps. Depends on if there's anyone inside to open. But our friend the bartender back there says he hasn't seen Moab in quite a while, so... But perhaps. Go looking for 131.
The hunt is on. So the passageway bends more than a few times. There's the first T, and there aren't signs, so you have to sort of hunt left and right a little bit. You get the distinct impression that each one of these suites is connected to a nearby hangar because you can hear ships taking off and arriving. And that is sort of exhilarating, at least in a little bit, for some of our crew members here. You eventually find Suite 131. It's at the tail end of one of the passageways here. And there's a beautiful curved arch that sits over the door. It's painted a nice brush red color. And there's a pad. And there's this sealed door.
Is there anything like a door chime or anything on the pad? Like to press, like a doorbell?
Oh, yeah.
I press it.
You hear an internal chime inside, very similar to the sound that was made when you entered the club originally. There doesn't seem to be any response from inside.
I press it again and I call it room service.
I think we'll have to try some more unorthodox ways to get in, Amara.
I step back from the door.
Fida is going to check the lock and examine. How's this wired? Maybe there's an exploit I know.
Well, see, it appears anyway that the door is probably just a handle and that the access panel nearby is likely what you're going to have to overcome. The door handle is likely just a piece of hardware at this point. It doesn't do much other than allow the lock to accelerate over after proper recognition.
Yeah, sorry, I understand now.
Yeah.
The bolt slides into the door rather than the bolt door into the frame.
Right.
Yeah, in that case, I'm going to examine the access panel and see if maybe I can figure out a way to have an interaction.
Yes, you would like to have an interaction with this piece of technology. And so I'll ask you for a wits technology roll.
I would love to. That'll be 6 dice because 3 in wits and 3 in technology. 2 successes.
Very good. So this is very heartening to you, Icarus. It looks like some people here have some real skills. No shock that the engineer would be one of them. You pop the faceplate off of this pad reader here with basically the bare hand that you have. It doesn't really take you much fine-tune work to get that off. Once it's off, you can see the copper coil that sits around the reader, and past that, it's pulling the wire out and crossing a few of them up, so that way you can get the door to essentially force unlock. You force voltage through the bolt, and it retracts, and Amara, you hear the door give way.
He just turns and gives a thumbs up.
I give him a thumbs up back. Nice job, big guy. I pull my dagger out and...
Why are you so into the sharp and pointy stabby?
Would you prefer I brandish a gun?
I don't know. The talking...
In a space station, the gun's a terrible idea, especially down here. Yeah.
Talking, sneaking, not killing anyone we might need information from. I don't know how good you are at the stabbing.
I wasn't going to kill anybody. It might be a talking point.
Mariska's gone inside instead of standing out in the passageway talking.
Inside the suite, you find a couple of things readily. One is a rather strange smell. It's organic of some sort. You're not certain. Perhaps it's plant matter. For you, Icarus, that smell sure smells like some of the more monsoony seasons that you've seen down on Kua. It's also way more humid in here than it is in the passageway. This space is probably about 4 or 5 meters wide initially, and then it opens up into a much larger space. It goes back a good 10 meters or so. And this is a suite, right? In effect, it's basically a really large hotel room. And there are different, we'll just say, purpose portions of those rooms. So initially in here, when you walk in, you're sort of into a wet bar area, emphasis on the wet, as there does seem to be some sort of actual precipitation or moisture is probably a better word. There's moisture here on the table and on the wall and on the ceiling. The lights in here work. There aren't a ton of dim spots. Readily available exits from this room are one all the way at the back of the room, and that has a sign on the door that says access to hangar. So it really is, for you, Tamara, basically what the guy at the bar said. It's a room outside the hangar. Curiously enough, though, none of that is as bothering as the dead body in the middle of the room is. There is the best word would be bloated version of Moab. He seems to be sort of ass over tea kettle on the coffee table, wearing very few in the way of clothing items. He seems to have been at some point maybe strangled. This is evident by a large, thick rope around his neck.
I walk in. Shit.
Oh, I've read about these.
Somebody like being kinky.
You've read about dead bodies.
I know, I've read about autoerotic asphyxiation that's gone wrong. Yeah, no, real fucked up.
Let's just find the info chip.
Is his clothes laying around?
I doubt he has it on him. He's not wearing much other than the noose.
Fida looks at Icarus completely flat-faced, just like, as I said, I hope he doesn't have it on him.
You can do the body cavity search.
I don't want. Dib's not doing it.
I'm going to check his clothes.
So he has a very similar sort of captain's jacket. It's nearby. It does not hold anything in particular, except maybe a snuff pack, like a little box where someone might keep perhaps some type of inhaled drug.
I pocket it for later. To sell, not to use.
Just keep telling yourself that. Okay. I'm going to ask for wits observation from the crew, as I'm certain that all of them are going to be somewhat interested in things they might be able to find.
I got no successes.
I got 2 successes.
Okay. 2 successes.
I got 1 success.
Okay.
I also got 1.
Okay.
4.
Yeah. I'll get to you, Rosie, last. So you have the most successes. So those of you who have no successes, that would be Amara. You look throughout the room just trying to get a handle on everything that Moab had going on. And you sort of do that thing where you get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things in the room. Autoerotic asphyxiation is the least of Moab's problems, at least now. It might have at one point been the most of his problems, but it's the least now. It's pretty clear that his kinks ran the gambit of possibilities. There's all manner of toys and accessories, we'll just say, that take up probably a good portion of this room. The bed is clearly, well, it's been used. I'll just put it that way. There does seem to be signs of other people having been in the room, as there are clothes that in no way, shape, or form would fit Moab properly or even at all. They also don't match his skin tone, so you're probably certain that those aren't his, although you never know. But that's really what you're doing. You're sort of going from one rolling, we'll just say fascination. You can choose sickness or fascination, but we'll just from one rolling horror to the next. For those of you with 1 success, unfortunately, it looks like Moab's been here a little while. So maybe a week, maybe more. That could serve, for those of you who have metacourage, that could serve as probably the reason for the bloating, as his body is beginning to, of course, go through the cycle that all carbon-based life forms do, at least in some regard. For you, Icarus, you find the thing that nobody wants to find. You're looking for the golden key to get you out of this situation, to get you out of this room. And that leads you under the bed, because no one's looked under the bed yet. Now, you wish you hadn't, but at the same time, you're so happy you did. Underneath the bed, there does seem to be something built into the floor here. It's maybe a meter by meter. It's definitely hard, and it sits against the floor itself. And so you think it might be a floor safe. It does mean you're going to have to move the entire bed and all of the particulars in and around it to get to it, but you think you might have found a safe.
Hey guys, I think there's a safe under the bed. Help.
Yeah, I turn and go over there.
Yeah, I mean, help me move the bed.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, I thought you were going to ask me. And he just stands at the foot of the bed and goes into a squat and then just stands up and drags the upper end of the frame as far as he needs to.
Yeah, you bet. You see that. There's a terrible screeching as the four posts of this bed just inch their way along and out of the way. Now,
metal bed on metal floor.
That strength you have, though, means that you can move the bed without a test. And so it reveals the thing that Icarus found, which is, well, an electronic floor safe.
Did you say electronic or non-electronic?
Electronic.
An electronic.
Doesn't mean it doesn't have mechanical workings, of course, but it's clearly powered.
Would we want someone with data gen to try to get into that?
That would be one way. It likely has some sort of computer interface, and you could try to hack the interface of the safe to get it open. I will note this, as you're exceedingly observant as well. Moab would not have fit under the bed. The bed itself is a little too low profile for him to get in, to be generous.
That's before the bloating.
Correct. That doesn't mean that maybe somebody didn't get into the safe for him, but probably wasn't him.
He might have had a friend.
Oh, no, you're fairly clear-fied. He had a few friends in here at some point.
Yeah.
And then maybe somebody who wasn't so friendly. But yeah, data gen could totally work.
I totally want to hack into it. That would be great.
I'm not here to stop you.
While Kainat is doing that, Icarus will continue to look around the room because, as you pointed out, this guy was probably not getting under the bed.
No, definitely not. There are some other things in the room to sort of go through. He did have a fair amount of clothing here, some of which is, probably worth some burr. Moab did keep consumables here too. So there's food, drink, etc. And then also there is a couple of data pads here that sit on a nightstand nearby.
So I got 4 successes.
Okay, great. So 4 successes on data gen. So that is a critical success, which is great because it means that the safe doesn't blow up in your face. Super fortunate. So after interacting with the computer systems, your fingers sort of fly across the LCD buttons here and the touchscreen that's available. And one of the things you notice is that the lining of this safe is lined with a fair amount of explosives. And you manage to comprehensively basically stand down the security alert that you set off by hacking it to keep the room from being, cratered. And it looks like they might be shape charged to go up, which would be really bad for you. That said, you get the safe to pop, and there is a nice and pleasing hiss when it finally opens.
That's what I'm talking about. And I'm going to reach my hands and feel around, unless it's light enough in here that I can just look and see what's in there.
Yeah, there's overhead lighting in here, so you can see what's in there.
Okay.
There's a single object inside. It is a silver disc, about no bigger than, say, an American hardball in radius.
I'm going to pull it out, and I'm going to slide it into my backpack so that it doesn't get lost out of somebody's regular pocket. I have the disc. We can go.
So all that was going on. Was anybody else inspecting anything else? The data pads, any of the closets in here?
I'm grabbing the data pads. I'm not bothering to look at them, but I'm grabbing them. What does Icarus need to be worried about?
The big thing you want to make sure that you don't leave is telltale signs of who was here.
So pretty much anything Icarus touches is going in one of her many pockets. And she can't do anything about any skin cells she might shed as she's here.
Certainly.
But that's the simplest thing for her to do, because the law enforcement definitely has her fingerprints and DNA samples, and she's just gonna hope that everyone else here is smart enough to know what they're doing.
Okay, good call. Anybody else?
I'll have a look at the closets.
So these closets, there's 3 of them. They sit along one side of the suite here. You open the first one up. It has racks of clothing, basically. These are workmen's, tradesmen's uniforms. There's different PPE, essentially. Glasses, gloves, boots, etc. You notice something, though, as you go to the second one. And the second one, the closet is a little bulged, and so is the third.
Looks like something's off with these 2, sort of pointing at them. Open? Leave closed? What do we think, gang?
Let's open them up. I go over and I use part of my duster to take one. Does it have regular handles on the closet?
It does have regular handles in the closet, yep.
I take my duster and I lift it up and I pull open the second closet door.
Okay. You pull just a little bit. It's enough force that what's behind it comes sort of careening out. And that is something you were not expecting to see today at all. And that is another dead body hung from what looks like some sort of cabling. And this person is extremely well built. There is a telltale burn on them on the right part of their collarbone. And it is a Legionnaire's skull. And we'll just say the paranoia and the concern begins to tick up. Inside the back of the closet is a scrambled and bloody uniform. It looks like this Legionnaire had several holes shot in them before being hung.
So once that spills out of the closet, Icarus is going to see if Moab is here. So their ship is probably here too. So she's going to see if there's quick and easy transport that they can just hop on and zoom out of here.
Yeah, you go to the door, which is effectively an airlock. So there's a little mini chamber inside. You punch the button and the airlock inside, the internal one opens. And you go to the outer section where there's the door that has like a tiny window to see out into the hangar bay. And you see no ship.
Whoever did this might have taken Moab's ship. So we should go now, right? Dead Legionnaire? Dead criminal?
Yes, we should leave.
This whole time I have been looking through his drinks cabinet for illicit substances.
Oh, boy. There are probably 3 or 4 different bottles here that are clearly on the do not have in your liquor cabinet, and those are the best ones.
Yep, and they're coming with me. Don't mind me, folks.
I close my eyes. Why? When I take my duster and I open the third closet door.
You know what? I like that about you, Morgan. So the third door is home to yet another body. 2 of them, actually, that have been strung up together. That's the best way to put it. They were likely at one point some type of courtesans. They're a pair done together. The electrical wiring that's wrapped around their necks is very tight. It looks like they likely died together. And this is sort of like an additional discomfort, especially for you, Tamaris. These are performers, and they likely had no idea what they were walking into at the time, as is so often in courtesan work at certain levels on Coriolis, the danger of not being either represented or having protection. This is what happens, or at least can happen.
So I have an important question.
Okay.
Are Tamarisk and I still linked to the bar?
No, it drops once you're outside the bar area.
Fantastic.
Okay, now we leave. What did she get us into? Shit.
Did we have a way to contact the crew that dropped us off here? If so, can we just have them meet us down here?
It's not legal here.
In the illegal underground smugglers.
But there's 4 dead bodies!
Yeah, so what?
Yes, and if it's doesn't cancel out it being illegal.
Alright, fine.
There's no cops here.
Not anymore.
There's a dead one.
That's the Legionnaire. They're not cops. They're private security. They're not cops. They're not station.
All right, less arguing, more leaving quickly with the data.
Okay, you leave. It's unmistakable. Something very, very terrible happened in here, and there are multiple interfaction problems here that you're already beginning to think about. But that said, you leave Suite 131 behind, changed forever by what you saw inside, hopefully having collected an all-important data package for your new patron. And we'll see what happens next on the next episode of Children of the Periphery, as put on by the Old Ways podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.